democracies, the inclusion of young people in political processes has become a significant fundamental value to build stable and peaceful societies. However, following the previous 12th Sarawak state elections, it shows a declining trend in youth political participation.
Young people between the age of 16 to 30 years old make up more than half of the world's population. In Malaysia, young people below the age of 40 makes up about almost 50% of the voter bloc as well.
However, the participation of youth in conventional politics has been decreased over a decade. Young people's political apathy, according to the researchers, is a huge threat to democratic societies throughout the world. According to the World Economic Forum, in Malaysia, the youth participation in politics was ranked in the lowest 5 out of 51 Commonwealth countries. For democratic countries like Malaysia, declining youth participation is a very critical issue in the nation's development agenda.
There are countless surveys, statistics, or studies showing that young people don't vote and are not interested in politics, that they allegedly don't care what decisions are made in our society.
So why aren't young people being represented in politics? Why aren't young people speaking up? How many youth ministers do we actually have? I think these are questions that we need to ask as young Malaysians. So when we talk about youth participation in politics, what does it mean? Is it about holding a placard? Is it about recording yourselves complaining about a pothole in Bangsar? I think it's a range of many things. When it comes to youth representation and youth speaking up, it's about young people realizing their power and their agency as a Malaysian.
It's a crowded election race in Malaysia's largest state. The pressure is on for the ruling coalition Gabungan Party Sarawak to hold on to its 2/3 majority. Officials have banned all election-related gatherings and rallies due to COVID-19 concerns.
Ini bukan satu kempen yang konvensional. Ia adalah kempen norma baru dengan penetapan SOP khas kecegah COVID yang mana kita tahu dalam 82 dun yang bertanding 64 dibenarkan kempen secara fizikal dan 18 secara alam maya.
Campaigning for the Sarawak election has begun. Multi-cornet fights in 80 of the 82 constituencies with a total of 349 candidates contesting. This state election is seen as a major test for Mr. Abang Johari and Gabungan Party Sarawak, a coalition made up of 4 local parties. GPS is contesting all 82 seats with competition from local opposition parties as well as Pakatan Harapan, which is contesting 62 seats. Sarawak is also in the third phase of the National Recovery Plan. As this election is held during a pandemic, the
shows what are the research questions and the research objective of this paper. For the first research questions, what are the factors that contribute youth in reluctance to institutional political participation in the 12th Sarawak state elections? followed by the first research objective, which is to determine factors that contribute youth in reluctance to institutional political participation in the 12th Sarawak state election. As for the second research questions, how to encourage youth to institutional political participations for the next upcoming Sarawak state elections, followed by the second research objective, which is to propose reasons or solutions in increasing the institutional political participations that contribute youth participate in institutional political participations for the next upcoming Sarawak state election. These slides explain the scope of study of this research. As for the level, it includes the youth from the age of 15 to 40 years old. As for the territories, this research will be conducted in the area of Kuching and Kota Samarahan, Sarawak. And lastly is the time frame for this research, in which starting from the March 2021 until November 2022. The framework of analysis presented here is based on the literature review that has been reviewed and studied. In these studies, the independent and dependent variables were determined, which resulted in the development of this framework of analysis. As can be seen here, the independent variables are the institutional participations, which is voting, interested in politics, and joint political party. As for the dependent variable, it explains the youth political involvement in the 12th Sarawak state elections. This study used a mixed methodology for data collections, in which combining both qualitative and quantitative data. As clearly stated on the screen, the sample size for this research has been calculated by the Rao-Solve calculator, which resulted to 384 respondents needed to complete the data collections. As for the unit of analysis, it is the youth that resides in Kuching and Kota Samarahan, Sarawak. As for research design, a mixed methodology will be employed, which is the qualitative and quantitative methods. For qualitative methods, a structured interview will take place in the context of focus group that consists of 4 people, each of whom retains the relevant knowledge due to their expertise or knowledge in a skill or discipline. Other than that, in order to support data for these qualitative methods, the evaluations and observations of relevant articles, journals, newspaper, books, and so forth also will be performed. For quantitative data, as mentioned earlier, 384 respondents will be needed. Questionnaire survey will be used for this research. The measurements of items in this questionnaire is based on nominal scale, which comprise of questions with a yes or no. Lastly, as for the sampling technique, this research will apply purposive sampling technique. This is because it allows the researchers to choose the specific elements among the whole population. For example, for this research, the specific elements needed is the youth from the age of between 15 to 40 years old. These elements later are met for fulfilling the researcher's objective. As for the conclusions, the review of these literatures is aimed to identify the factors that cause Malaysian youth reluctance to get involved in politics and to focus on the 12th Sarawak state elections. The reviews from this study will serve as a guide for the researcher on how to overcome youth apathy towards political participations and increase the political literacy among the younger generations. The understanding of youth involvement in political participations will assist the government in developing suitable policies, trainings, and even initiatives to engage youth involvement and increase their participations for the upcoming state election.